Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. What's up, everybody?
What's happening?
Morning.
A couple things have happened since the last time we were on. There's been a couple bodybuilding shows, and Molecular has released his dissertation on Tren. So that's
Yeah,
up
it's all done. Thank God. Yeah.
Did I hear it's over 3 hours long?
3.5. Yeah. Big weight off my shoulders. It was a lot of work, and I'm just
shit,
glad
man.
to be done with it. I'm never doing that again, man.
You didn't break it up into episodes. It's straight 3.5 hours.
You know what Todd had told me? Please break it up. It'll be more content. You'll get more views that way. And I was like, yes, I totally agree with you, but I am just way too autistic. I just wanted it to be like one thing. You know what I mean? And that was a huge, probably a really bad business decision, but I don't know. You know, I just wanted it to be like the magnum opus.
People said that Joe Rogan was crazy doing 3-hour podcasts, and he's the top podcaster in the world. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I think my average view time is actually pretty good on it so far.
It's
like,
what's up, Mike? Yeah, it was echo from today's been the echo day. I had to mute you, Mike. I'm getting an echo.
But yeah, I think it's the average view time is actually pretty good. It's like 45 minutes, so that's kind of reassuring.
That's amazing. I don't think my attention span would go that long. I don't know. I listen to everything on 1.5 speed though, so I when I've got some time, I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah. All my clients like got together and they were just like leaving it play over and over again on repeat, like in the background, like not even listening to it. So hopefully the algorithm is like shining brightly upon me now, because they've all just been kind of having it on loop for the last day or two. So
yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you did a good job with the way that you paced it. You know, the background that you gave to things before you really dove into, deep into things. You did it well, where even if you hit pause, you can jump right back in and pretty much not be lost. And it was you did a great job, man.
Thanks, man. I did a gym primate thesaurus. So like I took all the terms that were like kind of ambiguous and I put them into a spreadsheet with AI, and then I explained every single term throughout the script. So at least there's like an explanation of anything that's like not familiar. You know what I mean? Yeah. So hopefully that helped a bit.
But yeah, some serious J.R.R. Tolkien shit.
Yeah.
It's I will say this, another thing you managed to do very nicely, by the way, is that it's accessible, and I urge people, even if you're not super technical, the detail is there, but you can still get a lot out of it without understanding, or even if you don't have the expertise to appreciate the amount of detail that you put in, which is impressive, by the way. So hats off to you that it's narratively gripping. It's interesting.
That's why I led with the history section, because hopefully that kind of brought people into the story, and then the technical stuff is kind of after all that, like an hour and a half of that. So yeah.
Well, I can tell you from experience, if you just put Tren in the title of anything on YouTube, that's enough to get you top views.
Yeah. It's already got 3,000, which is pretty good. It's moving quick. So hopefully we can make the 10. We'll see.
It'll grow up. There's been a couple bodybuilding shows. Nick Walker shut the door at the Tampa. That was dominating. I mean, you saw him walk out, man. There was just no chance anybody else was gonna beat him. I mean, just zero chance.
No, the combo trying to go second and third immediately.
Yeah. Well, that was my first reaction when he's got that swagger and he walks out and just hits that front relax, and I was just like, all right, who's coming in second? Because it was. You could just see it, on him. Well done peak. And it was one of the few, somebody put a side by side. I don't know if you saw it, from the Arnold this year and the Tampa show. And he was not quite as tight as the Arnold, but very minimal. But man, he seemed even bigger than the Arnold when we were down there. And we saw, we were down there this year, and I thought he was massive, but he looked even bigger at Tampa. Maybe it was just
his conditioning was pretty crazy.
It was, but you could kind of see a little bit, like maybe it was the
Little bit.
lighting of Arnold, you know, the Arnold that kind of crisped things up a bit.
Yeah.
But I thought he came in bigger, and I just didn't think, you know, that was going to happen without losing some conditioning or showing some sort of softness. And it's
Right.
I didn't see any.
I mean,
in the
he's just a freak, and he never gets fat. I mean, you see him like he just never. He's always lean.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine that he's using one of my sleep tricks. So I don't know if that's true, but Mikey told me. So maybe that helped. I don't know.
That's cool.
I mean, he always looks great. I'm gonna see if I can find the video of him. But yeah, I mean, it was not even close between him and I honestly, I think if he looked like that at the Olympia, he might have won the Olympia. There was somebody put a side-by-side comparison of him with Derek at the Olympia this past year with him, what he looked like now.
Yeah.
And
I think that's on Who's the Best Bodybuilder page. Yeah, I saw that one too, and that was we went pose for pose the other day, Jackie and I, and on our show, and it was. I just thought I was actually rooting for Nick. I was subject. Yeah, I know I'm a fanboy for Nick, but I thought he actually killed it.
It seems like everyone has been rooting for Nick for like the last 5 years, right? Like we've all been waiting for him to take the W here.
Yeah,
I mean, I love Nick. I'm a fanboy. He's a cool dude too. Like if you talk to him, he's just down there. He's just a bodybuilding nerd like the rest of us.
He looks so bubbly.
Mm-hmm. He looks so humongous. That's what I'm saying,
man.
Jeez,
those quads.
And he's so approachable too. That he's such a personality that you can't help but bring that in when you watch him perform. You know.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best he's ever looked. I mean, I feel like I say that every time he goes up there, but it just keeps getting better.
Jeez. Yeah. Wow. It's like he doesn't stop putting on size somehow. There's like no cap to it.
Makes you wonder if he doesn't have a myostatin deficiency.
Yeah, there's something going on, man. Because like, I mean, he when he was you know, a year into bodybuilding, those pictures, man, he just looks like a normal guy. You know, he never looked like he was massive, right? I mean, there's some kind of cap that's not existing with him. Like it's just he works out and he just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
And from what I understand, he's pretty moderate with his doses.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Yeah, pretty reasonable.
Well, plus on top of that, you add the fact that I don't care whether you like Nick or he's your cup of tea for a physique or not. He's one of the hardest working guys out there. I mean, you just watch it. It's consistent. It's simple. It's never wildly. There's no trickery. Like there's nothing fancy about what he does other than quality training, consistent dieting, you know, just same thing every day. It's it'd be a coaching dream to have people just be that consistent all the time, like kind of like a robot.
Super consistent with his diet. I mean, he does from what I understand, he trains a PPL. It's funny because it used to be the bro split that everybody loved back in the 90s and early 2000s, and now it's people are it seems like most guys, I don't know if it's most of the pro level, but quite a few are doing PPLs and hitting everything twice a week now. 3 on, 1 off, something like that. But that seems to be, I mean, that's the way I've trained pretty much my entire life. I don't know. I just, when I do a bro split, I don't feel like I hit everything enough frequently, but I know that's how he trains. And if you watch him train, he doesn't train super heavy. Everything's very deliberate, very controlled, very, I mean, he's super controlled with his training.
Yeah. Well, especially now, I'd say like a few years ago, you know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I followed him for a while and he definitely was a little bit heavier, more high intensity, but I was actually just going to mention that now you see him have a big emphasis on making sure like he gets deep cuts in his lines by the way he's training. You can see dialing the, you know, the weight load back, but really getting everything out of it. And a lot of guys get dogmatic in their training. They find what works and they stick with it. And then they get so big, they blur out. I think a lot of those things are beneficial to him to being open-minded too.
He kind of got with the RP guys at some point, like a year or two ago.
Yeah, he was working with Jared.
Yeah,
it was years ago. I think he, you know, from talking to him, I think he said he's been more back to lower volume style of training. Recently, he's pulled the volume back a little bit, but I mean, what most of these pros, define as lower volume is probably high volume, but most guys,
Sure.
stands. But I would say, it's interesting because guys like try to reinvent training, but like when you look at the majority of most pro bodybuilders, they use, like, the large majority of them, like 90% of them, use some sort of moderate to higher volume. They're either doing a bro split or a PPL. A lot of guys train twice a day.
I think that's the way to go if you have the time.
I mean, and it's funny, it's all the mediocre gym bros that are doing the 3-day Mike Menser stuff. Like it's look, if it works for you, it works for you. There've been a couple people that have made that work, but it's really the outlier. You don't, and I don't know why people like to point to outliers for how they should do things. They and there are people that, Dorian Yates responded really well to that style of training. There's a couple people, but I'd say if we look at the mean, I don't know why people do not look at the mean. My background's in data analytics and statistics. Why wouldn't you start with the mean first? What works for the most people, and then if that doesn't work for you, then you start working towards the things that are.
Well, listening to the guys that already have good genetics for training advice is like, it might their training very well might be great, but it also doesn't necessarily have to be great, right? Because they have underlying genetics that are so good, so it can be suboptimal. They can still get huge. So maybe listen to the guys that have kind of mediocre genetics and still are able to, put on size.
We can still draw some conclusions though, but it's like there's been, it's just like the cycles too. Like people try to reinvent cycles, people try to reinvent the diet. I mean, when you look at the large majority of high level bodybuilding, they all pretty much do the same thing: PEDs, diet, and training.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you don't need to sometimes problem solve. I mean, there. I mean, this molecular. I mean, you've run into some extreme outliers. I've run into the extreme outliers. Reach out to us for help. We run into those people, but I'd say for most people, just start with what works for the largest population and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, bodybuilding is for the vast, like, I think majorly is like a solved problem. Like, we figured it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like, anybody that reinvents it to a high degree is probably kind of, trying to just do it for clicks, So I think, if an educator comes out and says something that's like diametrically opposed with what the standard is, it has to be kind of investigated and looked at with some scrutiny, because a lot of the time, it's already figured out. I mean, we got the basics down. It's testosterone. It's high volume, hard training. Consistent, low fat, high carb diets. Good sleep. Really, at the end of the day, So
I don't know. In my head, like you said, molecular, it's like 90. If people did 90% of what's required, which is exactly that, like what we figured out, they'd be like miles ahead. But people obsess, and that last 10% to see if they can eke out something. And I don't know, the amount of effort to get like a tiny little bit extra that you couldn't get from what we know.
Yeah.
Is it worth it, really?
Well, majoring in the
you have everything else right. Yeah, it's worth it, but most people don't.
Yeah. No, if for a guy that's on a high level, say like with a Nick Walker or something, that paying attention to those little details probably would make a huge difference, right? And I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's paying attention a little. But your average gym bro that's not even weighing and measuring their food, or worrying about the osmolarity of your intra-workout shake is probably pointless at that point. Or whether this high molecular weight carbohydrates better than the other brand when you don't even know how much food you're eating in a day. Like come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably guilty of creating a lot of people that are too up in their heads about things, focusing on the details that don't matter, right? I think
it's so fun.
It's fun. Yeah, it's entertainment and it's optimization at a high level, that if you already have everything dialed. But like that Tren video that I made isn't like, it's not going to change the basics of what we do, you know? So, you know, if you have the basics down, then you can implement the stuff in there. Right.
Yeah.
But
and it's not without merit. It's not without merit at all. It's just, you know, and I think this is the thing I try to pound through people, just master the basics first. You know, I was always like, you know, not that I'm a great jujitsu practitioner, but you get, you know, guys that come in that are white belts and trying to learn how to do knee bars and ankle locks. I'm like, dude, you just like that's like higher level shit. You don't worry about that right now.
Yeah.
And I think too, some people forget the difference between, should we try to do something fancy to squeeze out a little more progress in a short period of time, or is it wiser to just either extend timeline or allow for more time to get the result you're looking for? Like if you're on the trajectory, why do you got to always hit the turbo on everything just because it's available? You know, just because I can throw in another fat burner, does that mean you have to? Would it be wiser to give a little more time for things to play out? You know, sometimes splitting hairs can backfire, but yeah, you're right. If you don't have foundational pieces in place, yeah, you're not going to get
It's a great analogy because you put a turbo on a car and it's harder on the engine.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to get less miles out of the car. You know, if you're doing a 200,000-mile race, you know, 20 times around the world or whatever, you know, like you better not have a turbo on that thing. And that's what bodybuilding is like. You know, you don't want to push it.
I'll take the turbo.
To extend that analogy, if you bolt on the turbo and you don't add extra fuel, you're just going to grenade the right. So
yeah.
Dude, I love car analogies.
That reminds me of a meme I saw the other day, and I wish I could remember who posted it, but it was a guy on a leg press, and he says, "This is my leg press before watching Nick Walker win the Tampa Pro," and he says, "This is my leg press afterwards," and he does that crazy stance that Nick does on the leg press, and it's you know, that is probably something that works well for his body mechanics. And that's why he does it that way. I see people criticize it all the time, saying that, you know, he's working his adductors more than his quads, but it's something that obviously works well for him. And I think so much of that gets missed in the conversation we were just having, where you just have to find out what works for you and your body chemistry and your body mechanics.
I also find, like with Nick Walker's style on the leg press, when I see guys on stage, it's not usually not a quadricep development issue. It's most guys don't have adductors.
Sure.
And I'm sure that game. Yeah, I mean, Marv, you can talk about that, but like yeah, dudes don't have, exactly. They don't have hamstrings, they don't have adductors. Those are the areas that are deficient. You see it in the thigh gap all the time with dudes on the stage.
So deep belt squats for your adductors, and then the machine. That's basically max that out.
Well, like a study did asked to grass is more adductors grew as much as glutes did, and like it was 140 degrees of knee flexion, so that's super deep. The adductor magnus is the largest muscle. The backside has a mechanical advantage when you're at the bottom to start getting you out of the hole. So the adductor will fire, then the glute will take over. So in the study, it was like 5.7% glute growth, 5.2% adductor growth from just a barbell back squat. So like going deeper for adductors, obviously as you get feet wider, that'll be more adductors. Sumo deadlifts are adductors, they're not glutes. Why it feels like you're in the glute, it's like starting a curl from here and then going further. I'm like, the glute's already shortened. And then I want guys to do the, you know, it's not politically correct, the good girl machine, right? Like the adductors, load that up. You can also do a single leg version. So after a certain point, you can only hang so many weight plates, even with a gym pin, right? You could do a single leg adductor when you're sitting on the side and pulling across. That is brutal. And then wide lunges is also one of my favorite adductor motions. I got that from Dr. Danny LaMartina, who's 100 times smarter than me, of doing walking wide lunges when you're done with a heavy leg training.
She's great.
If we do everything bilateral, you lose rotation. That's why a lot of, big guys, they move like refrigerators. So doing some wide lunges at the end of every leg day, your knees will feel better. You're restoring rotation. So get those. But I'm big on good girl, the adductor machine first, then do your normal movements, and then finish with walking lunges. And if you have a history of hamstring strains, 99.9% of the time in the office, I will find they can't recruit their adductor on that side because that magnus acts like another hamstring. So if you always tweak your hamstring, I guarantee you can't get into that. The adductor's not recruiting right.
Yeah.
God damn.
That's exactly what my wife does at the end of her leg day for the exact same reasons. Was the wide spreaded kind of lunge.
It's
there.
a game changer. Like even if it's only body weight, it is a game changer for how much better you'll feel.
Yeah, she'll put like
Dr. Mark, what are your thoughts on abductors and stuff?
Yeah, so if you have a history of like piriformis syndrome, fake sciatica, not a huge fan of that. But you can vary it. If you lean backwards, it'll shift the emphasis down in front on your lower glute med. If you lean forward, it'll shift it back and up.
Yeah,
I do think you want to get fully developed glutes, because the upper part of the glute max has more abduction ability. The lower has more hip extension ability. So especially for females, they want to get that outer shelf. So make sure you're doing abductors. But if you have a history of piriformis syndrome, where that muscle deep in your glute puts pressure on the sciatic nerve, causing sciatica-like symptoms, you're probably not going to do that until you can get that calmed down.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I think the piriformis thing is very common with bodybuilders.
Yep. Super common. QL and piriformis I treat a ton. I will say I used to like poo-poo the abductor machine, and I got my adductor super strong to where, holding 2 plates from the weight stack, and I was like, wait, I'm so imbalanced. I started doing abduction going out, and a lot of my chronic groin issues went away because then I started balancing them out.
Is the pinching on the piriformis, is that just a muscle mass thing in the area, or
and it's a combination of
bodybuilders specifically.
Yeah, there's usually poor foot mechanics, which nobody looks at the foot clinically or in bodybuilding. But usually, that is just getting overloaded. And so your sciatic nerve runs below that muscle, or in 12% of people, it actually pierces the muscle belly itself. So if that gets really tight because you're not rotating well in the hip, especially internal rotation, that's going to cause the issue. So work on your hip internal, external rotation. Everybody does like the pigeon stretch. Sometimes, that's usually a good starting thing, but sometimes it can make it worse. So you're going to have to play around with it.
For the internal and external rotation, do you do it yourself for your clients? Like open it up yourself, or what do you?
Yeah, I feel like if I'm at a meet, I do, I call it a tug of war. But otherwise you're just doing, exercise like 90-90s, right? Hip airplanes, foam roller RDLs, loaded pigeon on an incline bench. So you have the bench on an angle, your legs on it, and then you're folding forward, and then you're pressing down the knee to fire the glute. That'll release it in a lot of people. And then just look up like gentle piriformis type stretching. But what do I always say? It's always comes down to the foot. You can do all the hip mobility in the world. If your foot's not moving right, that's what dictates that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think about like back extensions to loosen up the area?
It all depends, because some people that's too much shearing force. What you can do though, if you chronically have piriformis issues, is massage gun. Like search in your glute till you hit the tender spot. Don't like push it 100%, but don't move it around. Moderate pressure for 2 minutes straight. So if a muscle is actually tightened, 2 minutes of consistent vibration we'll just call them receptors to make life easy, will activate them to relax the muscle a little bit, and then also interfere with pain signals, right? Because what do you do when you stub your thumb? You shake it and rub it, because pain, pressure, and vibration all enter the spinal cord in the same area, and then they take different tracks up. Well, what's cool is pressure and vibration travel faster than pain. So if you have that channel open long enough, your brain pays attention to that. It's like, you have a headache, smash your thumb with a hammer. It's just a much nicer way. But the massage gun could be very helpful pre-training if you have a history of piriformis issues.
But the massage gun is not going to solve the problem. It's just going to stop.
No, it's going to allow you to get through training. Yeah. And then, you're going to probably need manual work. I do a lot of dry needling for that. That's my go-to, but not everybody likes needles. Or
dry needling in the glutes specifically, like the ventral glute.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, with Dr. Mark, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that saved me big time. I just wanted to. You mentioned that before about with the gun, and I did that for a spot in my shoulder, and it helps me get to sleep. So I'll literally get out of a hot shower. I put a little cream on there, and then I do the same thing with the gun. I find that spot behind my shoulder blade, and it relieves me enough to just get to sleep without my shoulder being, aching. Yeah,
good. So there's social proof.
It works great.
With the dry needling, are you going 2 inches in, 1 inch in? What's your
4 to 5? I'll go 4 to 5 inches. Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
they need to know what they're doing, right? So don't let some random person needle you. But yeah, and then I'll hook them up to a TENS unit because then I could use, I'll use, initially if it's like flared up piriformis syndrome, I'll go 5 hertz to relax it, and then I'll go 500 hertz right after because 500 hertz directly interferes with pain signals, and then it's actually helping your brain reconnect to the nerve better. So neuromuscular reeducation, like you had a stroke or a spinal cord injury. Doing the 2 opposing E-stem mounts with the needles in there, because think about that whole needle is now electrified. So I can manually change it because your piriformis is deep as you know what in there, right? So I have to get down 4 to 5 inches to hit it with a needle. Yep. But you're bracketing the sciatic nerve. And like sometimes I'll put it in and you'll get the twitch response. And then they get a zing down their leg. So like I just warn people now, even if they don't have a tight piriformis, hey, if you get a zing down your leg, this is totally normal, but we're going that deep for a reason.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a TENS unit back here, so that's good. Sometimes I've done dry needling myself, and my piriformis works really well for that.
Yep. And then for TENS, like surface pads, it needs to be running for at least an hour for it to really interfere with pain signals, which most people don't run it long
enough. An hour? Wow.
Okay. Yep. So long as it's like the right ones. The old school ones, you would have to play with polarity, but I think they fixed that in like the early 2000s. So long as it's not a dinosaur, you should be okay.
Okay. Got it. Wow. That's awesome.
Sorry to bogart the conversation.
No, you need to do a deep dive on this, man. This is incredible.
That was great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So James won the Atlanta, man. He looked really good. It's the best I've seen him look.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Hollingshead?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Reagan looked a little behind for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with him, man. He's one of those guys that looks like Mr. Olympia on Instagram, and then he gets on stage and you're like, doesn't look like the same dude.
Mm. Yeah, he's always a little behind.
Every picture. Sorry.
I mean, that's always been,
always look a little behind. That's kind of been his knock, is just getting that finished polish. Reagan, when it comes to his shows, he's got all the shape in the world, all the muscle, and he's huge. It's huge. It's just that finished polish that could probably set him ahead.
Yeah, I think sometimes these guys, I don't know what's going on with him directly, but I know a lot of the big guys get so obsessed with the scale, they worry about losing weight, and probably with him, he'd look better if he came in like 10, 12 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the issue that's affecting Joe right now too. Like he's just not hitting it. The last couple shows, he's just not looking super great. And I think that maybe that is part of it, but he stood out in a not great way yesterday. I actually thought he was going to come fourth. I was not impressed with how he looked yesterday.
Yeah. He also gets really, really fluffy in his off seasons. And that makes contest prep really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think the opposite happens too, is you guys come out flat. Like you said, Paul, Nick Walker probably would have won Olympia had he come out looking like he did at the Tampa, but because he's fuller, and a lot of people just pull too much when you get on stage and they come out flat.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is that, and also, but I think where Nick, like, I'm just guessing here, I never seen Nick get, like, he never looks like he's ever above 10% body fat ever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stay that lean in your off season, I know comes a time when you have to push the food to get big, but when you stay that lean in your off season, you don't have to do all the extreme shit that like, I don't know how much Joe came down, but he looked pretty fluffy in his off season.
Yeah.
And that makes contest prep really hard.
What do you guys think about, I mean, I know I got my opinion on it, but what do you think about the fact of when they talk about, how quickly you put your size on too? Like, there's a different look to Joe with the size he carries, because it's kind of newer, crude muscle versus guys like Nick Walker that have been, chipping away. I know it's a huge amount of muscle he's put on in 10 plus years, but it's a little different. Joe's been, you look back 4 years, 5 years, and it's like, this is double the human, so that.
Yeah, there's something to that.
Yeah.
I think you really see that right now with the pro bikini competitors that are trying to switch to fit model. Like even when they've downsized, like you said, Dave, there's just something about that muscle maturity and like the density and the quality of the muscle when they've had it for that long that even when they try to downsize, they kind of can't to the same extent that somebody who has new muscle can.
Yeah, for sure. I could totally see that.
I think he did the right thing. He pushed the size to get up to where he needed to, but I think if I were him, is my 2 cents, I would probably stay a little leaner in this off season, stay a little tighter, and see. I'll share it. This was it's what he looked like in the off season. Well, I'd probably stay a little tighter. You know, and I'm guessing he probably had to come down like 40 pounds for show. 40, 50 pounds would be my guess. You know, and it's like you were saying, Ryan, you would look better fuller, but when you have that much to lose, what do? You got to get the fat off.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. It's a very nuanced balance. But yeah, like he would have to come down but in the Arnold, like Nick came down too much. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the Olympia, Nick came down too much. He just looked flat.
Yeah, he pushed a little too hard. He was already lean. So
yeah,
but that, you know, it's always that line you got to walk, man. It's tough, but I think I really like Joe. I like his physique. I mean, he seems like a really down to earth, good guy. Easy got a lot, but I think that would be, I mean, he's a fucking freakazoid, man. And his transformation is insane. This is nutty.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
In that picture you showed, Paul, too, what you said was off season was also 11 weeks out at 286. So, you know, still pretty soft at a, 11-week out position.
Yeah. I if I were him, I mean, he's already got the size. He doesn't need more size, right? There's plenty of size. So I wouldn't worry about pushing size in the off season. Yeah. I don't think adding more size is going to make or break him. He just needs to come in harder.
Yeah.
For his shows. So if I were him, I would probably stay leaner in the off season. And I know he said he was shutting it down for the year. There really aren't any shows left because we got the Olympia come up, but I would keep it tighter in the off season. It's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm a totally different person than Joe, that's for sure. But I'm not really trying to compare. But at any time I get, when I get too big in the off season and then I fly down my weight quick in a prep, it's so hard to fill back out. And I see the same things, just a different softness as if you were to take your time. And that probably applies to most people. But when you got people like Nick, who stage weight versus off season weight is a smaller gap than what Joe is playing with, like it shows on stage. It looks, you can see that.
Yeah, I don't think Nick ever gets more than 15, 20 pounds over his stage weight.
Yeah, and that's ideal. That's ideal. And that's hard to do. That's really hard to do, because how do you push without really getting some little extra size on you and a little bit of body fat too? We do need to get to a point where you're just pushing into a surplus and allowing time for things to metastasize and grow.
Controversy.
Yeah.
A surplus to gain muscle. Uh-oh.
Well, that's what makes it tough. It makes it tough because you're balancing trying to really push in the off seasons, keep up with these top guys, and then you still got to get peeled for the show, in short windows, year by year,
Paul, can we talk about this comment really quickly from McNatty? He's talking about how everybody always manages to look better in their pictures than on stage. I think actually, Joe is a perfect example of this because he looks like a beast in those pictures you just showed, but he gets exposed in the lineup. And I think that's what the biggest part of Instagram versus reality is. When you see people next to each other, especially some of these bodybuilders, it's really hard to tell their size until they're standing next to somebody else. I mean, like, how tall are James and Regan? They're not that tall. They're under 6 foot, but I mean, they made Joe look like a tiny person. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of the stream quality yesterday was terrible. I heard from people that were there that James looked 1,000 times better in person and just so much drier and so much grainier. That's part of it too.
Yeah, for sure.
The lighting at that show was fucking terrible. I'm going to get on the lighting rant. Everybody looked orange.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
They got like the meat counter lights, the The like really yellow ones.
Look at this shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Jeez.
come on, man. But this was
Keep those
Joe.
hamburgers warm.
Yep.
Is
Yeah,
that
I mean,
just
he looks-
stage lighting, Paul? Or last Tampa Pro last week had a real busy set too, but the athletes still looked better. Does that just boil down to stage lighting, you think?
Terrible lighting.
Yeah, it looks like they've got like the like candlelight glow filter on this. Like it's so bad.
It's the Breaking Bad filter. That's what it is.
But you can still see he's pretty soft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His midsection looks like he's having something going on during his peak. Doesn't look like he's been able to
too much food. Really, that's what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And some guys can tighten it up, push the food down and it stays tight, or looks like it must have been a trouble for him.
It was Regan. I think Regan's pretty tall, right? He's 6 foot, right?
Yeah, I think he's like six even. I know he's at least 6 even. I've stood next to him and he's towers over me.
Yeah, this lighting is
I
not
love
doing
Regan's
anyone
physique.
favors. Jeez.
Isn't this horrible?
Yeah.
This goes back to my whole thing. Like the IFBB really needs to have standards on the lighting. They need to have a certain, if you're going to promote a show, you have to have a lighting inspection. There needs to be an official there inspecting the lighting.
Well, it's like it would be like having a different racetrack for every, like back to the car analogy, like having a different racetrack for every single race or something. Where the track is like built fresh every time and there's no like apples, it's all apples and oranges every time. Like this is the lighting is this like is the medium with which you're judging the sport, right? So there has to be standardization.
Poor Charles Griffin, man. That dude's got a nasty torn pec. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
Yeah.
Look at his pec. Oof.
Yeah.
You can see it up there. Look at that.
You guys hear him lose his mind on Fuad?
Yeah, that was awesome.
What happened?
Yeah, I didn't. What?
He laid in to Fuad for like 20 straight minutes. And like, I think at first Fuad thought he was maybe joking, but then, I mean, he was talking about how he should have won and that no one ever believed in him and he was robbed. I mean, like literally like going on a full-on Tren rant for like 20 solid minutes, and then started crying about how he like broke up relationships in his past. And like, I mean, he came like a thousand versions of him in like less than half hour.
Is that
still up?
It is. Yeah. It came out maybe Tuesday.
If he's listening, he needs to book a consult with the molecular so he can get some mitigation strategies.
Up with that trend.
It's the progesterone signaling, man. It makes you weird.
So real quickly with the torn muscle, obviously, that's going to change his career, but I've had some success with needling old torn muscles and filling in some of the dents on stage. It is incredibly painful, but you can break some of that and have some of that come back a little bit. But typically I have those people come in at the end of the day when nobody else is in the office because they're probably going to scream because you're literally breaking up that torn tissue. But I've had success with several, even like several, pros in the figure division where we filled in like a dent in her glue and a dent in her hamstring slightly. So it is, obviously you don't want to rely on that, but you can bring some of that back.
I want to know what the people like next to you in your office think. It's like, is Marv running like a BDSM dungeon in here?
Yeah, right.
Look at that. Look at that tear.
Yeah. Damn.
Holy
That's,
shit.
Oh man.
That is a
sucks.
gnarly tear.
Yeah. Now, of course, like obviously I'm not going to get it to be the other side, but you can get it. You can fill some of it back in. That's a bummer though, because it's a great physique.
How does that, Marv? How does that work? You think with the dry needling and the filling it in?
You're crisscrossing where the scar tissue is. That's what they do for like cosmetic facial needling. Like could, like when they do cosmetic facial needling, it's like 300-400 needles, and like you do it over the course of 6 weeks, it looks like a facelift. It's remarkable.
Wow.
But it is incredibly painful.
Yeah, I believe it. How soon after the injury are you doing stuff like that?
Oh, her tears, the one I'm thinking of, Jackie, her tears were years old.
Okay. Yeah. So you probably wait a few months at least.
Yeah, you got to, it's a balancing act, because if you get too aggressive early on, you can make it worse, right? So, like if you overstretch a torn muscle, like the first 5 days is like emergency, let the body do its thing. Now there was research I was looking at because I was getting ready for that big interview I did, where they actually started on a significant pec tear. They started slight, gentle stretching and very gentle isometrics day 2, and they were way farther along in the recovery process by like 3 or 4 weeks versus waiting the normal 5 to 6 days like I've always preached. So now I'm kind of telling folks gentle stretching, blood flow, maybe a gentle isometric as early as day 2, when before I would say we're going to be really cautious for the first 5 days, because initial scaffolding's getting healed. It's temporary. If you overstretch it, you could create more damage. So it's going to be a balancing act. So I'm kind of I'm also like, do I trust the patient or not? Right? If I tell them gentle stretching and I know they're going to grab a 50-pound weight and do an extreme stretch from Dante, hell no, I'm not bringing that up. Yeah,
never do anything.
Correct.
Marv, what's your take on the GH and the BPC? How soon after an injury?
Okay, so this is education only, not direct medical advice. Now we said that fun stuff because I saw that question. Because wasn't there a question, Amy, specifically?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So this is what I would do on myself. I would wait probably at least 2 weeks. Then, because we also don't know, you want the initial healing to start. So post-surgery, I would use, vitamin C and collagen. If you take that together 30 to 60 minutes before a rehab session, that'll actually increase collagen synthesis rate. So take those together and time it. Then I am a big believer in pro-resolving mediators. So pro-resolving mediators do everything we wish NSAIDs did. If you have a tendon injury, you start NSAIDs day 1. At the 4-week mark, it is 40% less stiff. If you wait till day 8, there is no difference. So the initial, you're just going to have to ride it out with Tylenol. But pro-resolving mediators will help resolve the inflammation. So here comes a rant. Sorry, not a rant, but it's going to be a little bit for me to say all this. So I apologize. Inflammation can be productive, restorative, or degradative, destructive. And pro-resolving mediators flips the switch to the more positive. That's already found in fish oil. That's what your body converts fish oil to. However, everybody converts at a lesser rate. Somebody online is saying baby aspirin with fish oil increases conversion. On paper it does, but in humans it does not. So I would prefer to high dose pro-resolving mediators following your body's natural healing process. So for me, that's 2 to 3 gel caps in the morning, 2 to 3 gel caps in the night. The first bottle, that'll last you a week. Then the second bottle, you could do that again or reduce it by 1. So in one study, 12 weeks of pro-resolving mediators helped people. I typically have them run it for 7 weeks, so getting 3 bottles total. So 2 in the morning, 2 at night, then 1 in the morning, 1 at night, and then the final bottle, 1 at night. Once you get past 2 weeks, then you could bring in healing peptides. I really like GHKCU because zinc and copper are really important for tendons, and bodybuilders typically are deficient in copper, or they high dose zinc. So anything over 40 milligrams of zinc will deplete copper. So the GHKCU is very bioavailable. Plus, I joke a milligram of that a day keeps the retinol away for skin wrinkles and quality and all that. We do not know, though. I was talking with Dr. Scott Stevenson, who obviously is way smarter than me. We are artificially increasing collagen synthesis rates with BPC and TB. Is it healing as strong? We don't know, right? Because there's no human studies on it. Mm-hmm. But to me, wait 2 weeks, let the initial healing start, then run those. But I really like adding a GHKCU. I don't like having them all in the same bottle or vial because nobody knows at the rate that the GHK oxidizes it, right? Nobody knows. So I would rather just keep it separate, to each their own. But the vitamin C, collagen, pro-resolving mediator start right away. Then at the 2 weeks, start the peptides. I would add GHKCU with that mix, and then make sure you're getting in enough zinc, vitamin D, and copper. And then manganese is also important for tendons, but we typically, you're usually using a multi, but just be really careful. I see guys high dosing zinc. They are messing up that zinc to copper ratio, and that's incredibly important for tendons. And then N-acetylcysteine had some research on helping the tendon adhere to bone quicker. So that's something you could use. But NAC, super high doses can deplete zinc. So see how it gets really complicated? So you got to really not just don't like mega dose one thing. Basically, the only thing I really mega dose is magnesium. Other than that, I'm trying to like as little as possible.
Yeah, I've got a guy anabolic climbing who is he's an enhanced climber. And
That's
he goes
awesome.
really deep into the tendon stuff.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, but I've talked to him about some concerns with collagen quality going down with
Yeah, we don't know. We
know.
have no idea.
So that could potentially be an issue with BPC and TB as well. That's kind of an open question. I don't know if it's necessarily going to improve the strength of the tendon necessarily. It's really hard to say. So
yeah.
Also, I have to wonder. I was going to ask you, Molecular. I was thinking about this week. The constant cranking up of collagen synthesis. In a lot of guys long term end up. I'm wondering if it contributes to guys long term ending up with fibrotic heart tissue.
Yeah, for sure. That's why blocking the mineralocorticoid receptor is so important, specifically for reducing fibrosis in the kidneys and the heart. It's really the only way to kind of stop that in its tracks. There's animal studies that show, if you block the mineralocorticoid receptor, you stop basically all the fibrosis in the heart. Even
translate that. Well, how are you doing that?
I use
I don't usually talk about it because it's finerenone,
right.
but with the caveat that it will increase your potassium. So if you're supplementing with potassium and you're taking finerenone or eplerenone, you can end up in the hospital. So everyone needs to be really careful. If you start taking eplerenone or finerenone as a preventative to stop fibrosis in the heart and the kidneys, it's not something you can just take willy-nilly. You need to test you need to do a CMP, test your electrolytes, and then make sure your potassium is below like 4. And that's really the only time that you should be on those things. So, just be careful. I mean, your potassium will typically go up like 0.5, 0.6, maybe even 1 point, So it can be dangerous if it's not managed
crazy.
properly.
Yeah.
Okay. And the nice thing though is you don't have to supplement with potassium. You can just kind of be on one of those things, reduce the excretion in the kidneys, and then you don't have to take new salt or anything. It's a little cheaper, but you need to be careful. So it's very good for preventative care in terms of, at least in these animal models, like when they in the presence of superphysiological androgens, you block the mineralocorticoid receptor. That's the androgen receptor and the mineralocorticoid receptor are integral to fibrosis happening in both the heart and the kidney. So if you block the mineralocorticoid receptor, you get rid of the fibrosis downstream. So it's very, very beneficial, but it's not something that you should necessarily do if you don't know what you're doing. So
be monitored.
So what about GHK remodels the cellular matrix to reduce fibrosis as well? I mean, I guess we don't. Is there any indication of how well that works?
I'm not sure. There is a concern with BPC and fibrosis because, like, mechanistically. So, like, these guys that are on high dose anabolics all the time and then on BPC all the time, maybe not such a good idea. There's no studies on it, but at least mechanistically, it should increase fibrosis in the heart. Like anytime you're ramping up collagen synthesis, you're also ramping up fibrosis. Basically, always, right? Anabolics do the same thing, So, you have to be really careful with that kind of stuff. Like the BPC is absolutely something you should not be on all the time.
Thank you.
All those things, yeah.
And so the TB 500 does a similar thing. So I just wonder if there's an effect to mitigate some of that fibrosis, or if it's just not enough. I guess we just don't know, but it's
no one knows. Yeah, these are and even with the fibrosis, these are all animal models because you can't give a human 800 milligrams of testosterone and see what happens. But at least from my perspective, like all these healing peptides, like I would exercise caution and use them in short bursts when you actually need them. Don't just stay on them forever.
And they're dudes that just run this shit year round. Like
GH is fine.
What? Yeah, I'm talking about the healing peptides.
No, GH is not fine. GH will do the same thing, but it's worth it.
Well, they're like HRT GH.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about
physiological. Yeah,
units a day is not going to be good for your tendons. No.
And if you're on a super physiological amount of GH, it's more of a reason to block the mineralocorticoid receptor, by the way, because that's another signal to your heart that's going to make it grow. Not necessarily be fibrotic, but it will remodel it. It'll get larger, and then your ejection fraction goes down. And when your ejection fraction goes down, then you have a really bad time.
You're circling a drain for heart failure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you want to be really careful. I've seen a lot of bodybuilders with ejection fractions in the low 30s. over time.
That's hard enough.
Just not doing cardio, not taking way too high doses for way too long. And most of it is cardio. I mean, honestly, like blocking the mineralocorticoid receptor helps. But if you can do a lot of cardio, the heart's still going to remodel, but it's going to be efficient. And that's the point, is as long as it's efficient, as long as it can squeeze and get all the blood out of there, you're doing good. But if it gets so stiff and large that the heart can't actually contract properly and you have blood left over and it gets inefficient, then your heart rate increases, it remodels further, and eventually you're circling heart failure, like Josh said. So you want to be really careful with that kind of stuff. So guys, do your zone 2.
Yeah, just do cardio. I do a lot of cardio. My blood pressure is 117/71 with no medications. I do take finerenone because I am on a contest prep and taking a lot of Tren, of course.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to get. Yeah.
I got a question for Marv. For the quad tendon, is anything other than like leg extension slowly? Is there anything better to, work on your quad tendon so they don't pop? Kind of pre-training them.
Oh, like preventative?
Yeah.
There's a paper that came out that just ranked all the loading of patellar tendon exercises. So everybody should look at that. Because, you know what the number one was? The freaking. I mean, there's a little bit of jealousy because he's famous, but god damn, he's a charlatan. Knees over toes, the slant board, crazy knees. That's like the number one most patellar loading possible. And everybody's doing it. And then they're wondering why they're developing patellar tendinopathy, because you went straight to the most extreme freaking possible thing. So it's job security for me. So I really like blood flow restriction. I know I talk about it all the time. I'm trying to bring blood flow restriction more to bodybuilding, not just for rehab. That's a great way to help with it. And then, because guess what? In athletic endeavors, if you develop patellar tendinopathy, that's going to end your career at like a 40% clip. Like, it's brutal. And patellar tendinopathy, continuing to do the insulting activity, will actually make it worse. Like Achilles tendinopathy, it's going to cause pain. It's not going to further degenerate it. So when I have a lifter with patellar, I'm like, look, you're not going to hear this, but we might have to shut down quad training, like traditional, which is brutal. So I hate it when that comes in, because that's obviously super hard to get buy-in. And then that's when we are for sure doing blood flow restriction to substitute that. But I really like, so long as you're safe to do so, putting the cuffs on your legs, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off after leg day can facilitate recovery, help soft tissue healing. You could even ride an exercise bike and it permanently increase the diameter of their femoral artery. That might help with some blood pressure issues, as well as increased vascularization and recovery in the gym. So there's a huge performance benefit as well.
Is there, Dr. Marv, any benefit in blood restricted training during actual weight training, other than what you described?
I use it in my workouts to make them 10 times more brutal. You do blood flow restriction and then you do your normal workout for that body part. One, you won't be able to do as much weight, but you've already increased motor unit recruitment. You already got those high thresholds firing. So you're going to get a wicked contraction, right? Gotcha. Like, you got 30 minutes to do quads. You're going to do BFR leg extensions. Then you're already going to have warmed up, immediately do 1 myo rep set of a pendulum squat and then a DC stretch. I guarantee you stimulated quad growth from those 3 things super quickly.
That's awesome. Just a quick point on the quad injury side of things. If you're injecting your quads, you're asking for trouble, asking for injuries, over time. Over a couple of years, that can cause a lot of problems. So just anybody listening, don't do that.
And then if you ever have exploding pain in your knees when you're driving, that's a scar tissue referral, I think, anecdotally, from scar tissue in the glutes. So it seems like that's, years and years of injecting in the same area. It'll literally feel, it was excruciating to happen to me, feel like somebody put a balloon in my knee and started pumping it up. Then I had, got religious with, working on that area, and it went away. So if you're getting that, that's a signal you're getting referral pattern from glute scar tissue.
Yep. Yeah, people really underestimate the injection sites, especially not rotating and just having one area where it can cause tears and all kinds of stuff, a lot of pain too. So just,
it's always fun to have a bodybuilder. Yeah. When I get imaging, let's count how many injection granulomas you have. Let's say the over under, 10 and a half. You say over, I'll say under, and we'll see who's right.
You can see them on ultrasound, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen mine.
Ultrasound, MRA. So if they're gnarly enough, you could even see it on an X-ray. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know.
Yep.
Jeez, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, same thing with shoulders too. I've seen guys with shoulder issues from just doing nothing but shoulder injections all the time, especially like
I can't.
side welds.
Yeah, I can't do that at all. It's agony for me, even if it's water based.
Yeah.
So you tell me I should stop doing my quad injections?
Do you do quad injections,
dog?
I have for my entire life. I can't do glutes.
Dang,
my glutes
you're brave.
My glutes just don't take them. My shoulders are all fucked up. I don't want to. I'll do quads, triceps, occasionally some shoulders. I can't reach my lats. So plus I've seen some horrible things happen with lat injections.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
I think just rotating them is probably the best thing you can do. Is like not just hitting one spot over and over again.
Yeah,
and that may just look like moving it around in the same spot too. I mean, that works.
I usually do left delt, right delt, left tricep, right tricep, left quad, right quad.
That's where I'm at, except glute instead of tricep. But it's exactly like that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you give space.
I just cannot do glute injections. I've tried it several times and it just doesn't work for me. I get huge blood.
A fan of chest injections?
Fuck that.
Me shit, dog.
That's fair.
I've got a G5 like massager that I can just like hammer those things with every once in a while, and that seems to help. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I mean, I'll do it with my forearms, dog. I'm crazy. Why not?
Oh, man.
I know Dave Crossland said he would do his calves. F that.
Oh,
Hell no.
Way back in the day, I just wanted to see, because there was like a theory that site injections would actually increase muscle mass. So I did every muscle. I just wanted to see what would happen. And I didn't notice them getting any bigger other than when they swell up. Right. But remarkably, the one that actually was the least painful, because I used to do sustenance and it was pretty painful. The least painful was traps. Like I could do my traps and it would never swell up and never hurt.
That's interesting. And for me, the rear delts, it's funny. Like I'll do front, side, and rear delts, and that gives me 3 different spots on my shoulders, and it works quite well, But I also rotate everywhere, quads.
Your wife doesn't pin you?
No.
What?
I can reach. I'm still flexible.
Well, I mean, still. What would she if you needed her to?
Oh yeah, she has. Okay. She has on a few times if I'm if I have to, but
it really comes down to like the quality of the gear you're getting, like the BA, BB, like all those solvents. Like if it's stinky, or you test it and it's got a lot of that crap in it, it can cause a lot more scar tissue than the cleaner
solvents, stuff. Impurities, endotoxins, lots of things.
Yeah.
It does make a difference.
All right, we want to grab some questions. I'm sure people are anxious to get their questions answered.
Yes. Well, since we have Dr. Marv on, let's do I'll do the training questions first because we have no member questions. So we'll just start there. From Gamboni Law, great show. What do you all think of the Rogue Air Rhino and Concept 2 Strength? Would anyone incorporate it into their training? If so, how and when? And Paul, I did link that in the private chat if you want to show people what that is, because I didn't know what it was.
No clue what that is.
Even after looking at it, I don't know what it is.
Like, is it going to provide, is it for like lifting or is it for like cardio? That's what I don't understand.
Right.
Seems like it's for cardio, but you can get it incorporated into a full cage. So I don't know if they.
Yeah, because then they have like
a belt squat with a row machine thing. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's like an Airdyne belt squat.
Sounds miserable.
I think it's going to help you. The harder you get the concentric, the more resistance you're going to get, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So you're trying to speed pump through the reps.
Developed for the same uncompromising design philosophy as the Echo cardio line. The Rogue Air Rhino introduces a new element in resistance training. Okay. What does that fucking mean?
Right.
It would be it would be cardio though, right?
It means great advertising.
But then they're showing lifting, right? Because like if that's actual could be for lifting, I will get that from my office. That takes up no space. Like hell yeah.
Right. I think it's more for an explosive. Like I think you're going to be working on your strength and your explosiveness through this rather than it's not something I think you're going to get time under tension and building mechanical tension,
built for power, speed, and recovery. Okay, yeah.
It's concentric only. So yeah, okay. So never mind. I'm not buying it from my office.
This manufacturer is pretty oriented to a certain type of athlete too. There's like a lot of
CrossFit,
CrossFit and other strength and endurance things.
It looks like F45 stuff, or what is it? Is that what it is? F45.
I mean, I have some. I bought a bunch of Rogue equipment when I had my gym in my house. They make great stuff, high quality stuff.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to be a bodybuilder tool necessarily.
I mean, it looks like a strength. I mean, it looks like an athletic training device to me.
Can you adjust
depends on what your goals
on
are. That is a good question. Yeah, it has a flywheel.
So far, no. For training on this thing, I don't see. I do a lot of crazy fun stuff. I don't see any kind of enjoyment out of
Resistance
it.
is refined through a continuous damper that the stepless sliding scale, offering precise adjustability. So yes, you can adjust it. Combined with a concentric only resistance system, as Marv said, the Air Rhino is ideal for high frequency training, rehab, speed work, minimizing muscle damage, and supporting faster recovery between sessions.
Yeah, Marv needs one of those.
I mean, I could use it with all my athletes in the office. Like, I'm gonna have to look into this. I need to try it first because I'm still confused. But
I've honestly never seen anything like this, so it's a new one to me.
Interesting.
$1,300, not a big deal.
I coach a couple of hockey players, and I could see this as being, get a good foot placement, maybe a belt squat attachment or the harness that they showed, and then just working on consistently not getting tired, exploding, through the concentric, so that way they can skate harder and take off and accelerate faster. But for me as a bodybuilder, I'm putting a huge emphasis on the eccentric of the movement and how I can just create as much torture on that muscle and tension. So not that it's not useful, just maybe not for my application, but for the hockey player that I need to get some pep in their step and build some endurance, I could see that as being a useful tool.
Or the CrossFit athlete, High Rocks athlete.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. From Pal Stallion, training question. I frequently tweak my mid back on chest day. Never feel it until after. Have you guys had this happen? What was the offending exercise? And then he added, to be more specific, it feels like either rhomboid major or upper erector spinae.
This is rib cage. So bottom of a press. Sorry, guys. Is it okay if I go? I don't want to take over.
That's why I'm asking these training ones, because you're here.
Yeah. So bottom of a press is internal rotation driven, right? Well, when you rotate at the bottom of the press, your upper back ribs need to expand to allow you to get in that full position. So a lot of the times we're going beyond the pure internal rotation of the shoulder. So if you look at my shoulder, I'm good. And then see how it kind of rolls forward at the bottom. I've exceeded my pure internal rotation. So now the tension is off my pec, getting put squarely on my bicep tendon, increasing a little strain on my rotator cuff, and then compressing that part of the rib, right? So it feels like it's rhomboid, but it's probably rib first, and then the rhomboid is spasming as a result. So the easiest way, right, is the 10 breaths on each side before and after training. But you could do 10 breaths before training, and then when you're done, lay on the foam roller for 3, 4, 5 minutes each side, and then work on internal rotation ahead of time. And then you might be going too deep, right? Because then you're asking your rib cage to expand when it doesn't want to. So that's probably what it is. And then and then weak traps. He probably has weak traps. So very rarely do I find anybody who lifts comes to me where their lower traps are strong enough to handle what they're doing. So the number one predictor of shoulder impingement, even though that's a super lazy diagnosis because that could be 6 different things, is weak external rotators and weak lower traps. So train your external rotators, because when you're pressing, your infraspinatus is the primary stabilizing rotator cuff muscle. When you're pulling, it's your subscap. So train your external rotators. So I love face pulls as final warm up right before pressing. That's one of the best warm ups for pressing. And then get your trap stronger. If you don't have front of the shoulder pain, just grab an Olympic weight plate, squeeze your glutes, straight arm, go all the way up overhead, called the trap raise, right? So you you could load it that way. If you've got an irritated bicep tendon or a front delt, you'll just do the TYWs I've talked about a bunch, right? But you do those two things and then you get the rib cage moving better. It'll probably, one, your pressing will be better, and then two, it'll probably get rid of that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That's awesome.
Okay. Next training question is from McNatty. He wants to know if you get better quad involvement if you turn I think he means your toes, when you turn your toes outwards doing leg extensions.
Externally rotating will increase more rec fem. Internally rotating will get more vastus medialis and vastus lateralis. So slight rotation for rec fem, slight internal rotation for lower quad. You can't isolate your teardrop from your quad sweep on that. Now, in terms of a leg pressing motion, something that Phil Viz said that makes a lot of sense. I'm experimenting with it because I might have to change a online thing I'm working on right now, is foot pressure, right? Pushing on the outside of your foot might engage more quad sweep. Pushing on the big toe on the inside might get more teardrop. That makes a lot of sense to me on paper, but I still need to experiment with that. But when you're on the leg extension, avoid extreme ranges. Like if it hurts your knees, you're going too far. But it was literally, if I'm trying to go from memory, 15 degrees of external was ideal and only 10 degrees of internal was ideal for shifting that emphasis. But like you're usually doing a leg extension for rec fem, right? Like that's why we do that. So I would go slight external.
Yeah. Can I just also add too, like if you're looking for maximum quad growth I mean this in a nice way, I wouldn't be worrying about my foot placement on my leg extensions as much as going backwards and full controlled range of motion, hard contractions at the top, slow controlled lowering, progressive overload, getting close to failure, the things that are going to matter the most, the biggest bang for your buck on thought process on executing your lifts. But yeah, I do the same. I'll move my toes around where I feel I kind of need a little more blood flow or pump to kind of finish off my workout, because I put my extensions towards the very end to get as much blood in there, walk out with the pump, let myself heal.
I think they're super overrated personally. I think they're overrated, but that's just me.
Leg presses are overrated?
Leg extensions.
Leg extensions, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I
mainly just use them to loosen my legs up before I do my my big compound movements. I always do. I don't know if this is the right approach or not, but I like doing my leg curls and my leg extensions first, not like all balls out failure, just to get everything loosened up.
Mm-hmm.
I see the thumbs up from Mark, so that must be the right approach. But that's just how I've always done it.
Well, think about it. The movement's gonna create more synovial fluid in your knee, which is oil. Then you're getting blood in your hamstrings, which will increase your leverages when you're getting out of the hole, right? Now, Keon, who's a mutant, his favorite quad exercise of all time is a leg extension. I'm like, tell me you're a genetic freak without telling me you're a genetic freak. Like, he didn't train his hamstrings directly till he had made it to the Olympia stage. So please don't take training advice from him, right? Sure. Like, it is incredible. But
he's
I
one
like
of the guys
what Paul does.
Don't follow his advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, two other ways I like it. I do like the leg extension for, though, is like Paul says, warming up. But sometimes with people, it's a good way of getting them to teach how to get the quad stretched into, like, almost loosen up the quad. So that way, when we go into a pendulum, we go into a leg press, we're not as stiff right off the bat. We can actually start to get a good range of motion. And then secondly, at the end of a workout, I'm a big fan of, we've done the damage to the muscle. Can I fill that muscle with as much nutrient-rich blood as possible and walk out with a pump, engorged, quads, and call it a day? That's my thought too on how to use them. But being a builder, you're probably right, Dr. Marver. Like, that can't be your go-to build my quads.
But that is how you teach somebody how. Like, I'll have a newbie do a leg extension, then we go to the leg press, be like, okay, don't think about pressing the sled. Try and mimic the action of a leg extension where they're firing their quad, right? So that is a useful tool. Like, visualize doing a leg extension. So everybody do this next training session. I guarantee you're going to have to take a plate off the sled, but your quads are going to engage so much more. If you're trying to just mimic the sensation of a leg extension, your quad will fire better. So it's a tool for that, but that is not a meat and potatoes in my brain personally.
What do you think about these guys who are going like way hyper over knees over toes on a hack squat? Have you seen that? Like Brandon Curry put a video up the other day where he was doing it. What's your thoughts on that?
So it's going to be really dependent on your injury history, what you could do. Cause like how, like that slant board I talked about earlier being like the #1 patellar, like if you've got any issues and you've got to work your way to that. Cause if you jump straight to that, I guarantee you're going to get some tendon issues, right? So you got to slowly build. Yeah. Will it allow for more? Absolutely. And then I don't like heels off a platform, right? When guys go super low, because keeping heel contact will allow your shin bone, your tibia to rotate better because you have to have your knee rotate, right? So if your heel's off, you're going to lose some of that shin rotation in relation to your thigh bone, your femur. So I want the heel in contact.
Personally. Man, I saw this orthopedic surgeon show like the physiology of putting your feet really low on that and how it causes quad tendon shearing. And
the shearing is insane. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, all right, I'm never doing those again.
My knees hurt just watching him do it.
Well, he was just like, it was like, if you want to rupture your quad tendon, this is the way to do it.
Mm.
It was crazy. Dave, next time you're in town, I'm going to have to take you over to the new DMV Iron. Ryan can tell you the leg equipment over there, it's like Disneyland for leg training. I've never seen so much leg equipment.
Absolutely.
The gym is crazy.
This winter we'll get all together, Ryan, and we'll have to go down there and pump some iron.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan's in town now, so Ryan and I are at the same gym.
Yeah.
As long as it's not, as long as by Disneyland you don't mean they charge you too much and make you wait in line way too long.
You might have to wait in line. There are a lot of broccoli heads in there.
Are they going to ruin my childhood when I'm in line?
They have so much. I mean, they have I saw some leg equipment the other day I hadn't noticed before. I'm like, wait a minute, like I never noticed that one before.
That's cool.
You gotta show a picture, Paul, of that one leg machine that's 2 stories.
Oh yeah, they've got that one. Like,
do you have a picture of it? I have one.
That old school hammer strength that you have to like climb up on like a bunk bed.
Oh, I used one of those in Thailand.
Yeah, it's that one. That one that's at the Muscle Factory in Thailand. They
makes you feel like a badass, though, for sure.
I forget. Is it like a leg press? Basically,
yeah, it's a leg press.
Yeah, I've seen those.
They have all kinds of
stories. You have to climb up a ladder. If you fell off of it, you would injure yourself.
I'm in love with the New Tech stuff. Holy crap, the New Tech stuff is just fucking crazy, man.
It's really well engineered.
They also have this the newer version of the Atlantis hack press. That's like one of the only things that doesn't hurt my knees. I just love that thing. All right, let's grab another question.
Okay. Dalton Miller wants to know, what about glute, hip, and hamstring pain on the right leg when driving?
Marv episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Make the most of it.
I'm loving this, dude. This is great.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as I just feel bad, like bogarting, but okay. Cool.
This is for the audience.
Yep. So it might be the piriformis syndrome, right? Most likely, or it could be a hamstring tendon issue right where he's sitting, but it's probably like just the sustained pressure, especially if you've got a wallet there. So try that. Yes, it could technically be an SI joint referral pattern or technically like a lumbar radiculopathy, but when it's for driving, yeah, you're going to want to stretch the piriformis. So get out of your next stop, get on a bench at a rest stop, get in a figure 4 position, but I don't like passively stretching things, right? Passive stretches get passive results. So get in a figure 4 seated, put your hand on your knee, use your leg muscles to pull your knee up into your hand, 10, 20% effort, hold that for 5 seconds, then use your leg muscle to pull your knee down to the ground. Now you could add overpressure, but I want you contracting and firing. So do that first. That'll release the piriformis a little bit, and then following it up with a hip airplane would be really awesome, because the hip airplane, you've got 6 muscles deep in your hip socket. We can't consciously control them, but hip airplanes and like the heavy banded distraction, which you could do in the gym, not on a road trip, will actually get those to fire, and they're going to, it's called joint centration, pull that femur into the center of the hip socket. So doing that figure 4 and a hip airplane on a road trip should help tremendously. So that's what I have to do. So those are the two things everybody should do on a road trip. And it's remarkable how much better your low back will feel, and it'll prevent that. Sometimes, like one patient, I'll actually have her use my foot wedges. She sits on them when she drives and at her desk, because she's a desk jockey, because your body's a cog system. By sitting on it, it balances her out and it takes away her neck pain and her hip pain while driving, which is pretty wild. So sometimes like a wallet would help. Sometimes it would make it worse. But I bet you it's just that sustained pressure sitting when it starts after 30 minutes is usually traditional piriformis syndrome we were talking about earlier.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Okay.
I've lived through plenty of that. And I started doing the same thing. Instead of getting out and doing a figure 4 stretch when it got really bad, I started using a wadded up towel and just putting it under my glute on either side, wherever it was hurting. And it seemed to help quite a bit.
Oh, nice. Perfect. See, more social proof. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. One more training related question from James. Wants to know how to fix an imbalance of abs, one side more prominent than the other.
I believe that'd be mainly genetic from what I see most of the time, right? You mean like the shifting of the abs, like they're not all lined up?
Well, like one side sticks out more than the other.
Yeah.
I wonder if he has some diastasis or something going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's tough.
I'd have to see a picture of him to say for sure.
Yep. That's what yep. And then, like, if you've had an old nerve injury, like, yeah, you could, have some denervation going on. But yeah, I'd need more info. But what you could do, actually, we could see if there's at least a nerve entrapment, is just take like a toothpick and draw tic-tac-toe over your abs. And if that toothpick feels like a burning knife, that means there's a nerve in the skin entrap. And then so long as there's not a bruise, use a spoon or a butter knife with some lotion, and you can mimic the scraping tools you'll see PTs and chiros do. But did everybody hear what I just said? You never scrape over a bruise from a muscle tear, because you could actually cause calcium crystals in the muscle belly, and then you've got a whole other host of problems. Mm-hmm. But if you've got any issue that's kind of feeling weird, like burny, tingly, nervy, it's called a toothpick sensory grid. It's literally called the jump sign. I'll do it. Like I had to treat somebody yesterday, emergency in office, and we did it. And yeah, the dude like almost came off my table. I'm like, that's a nerve entrapment. I tooled it, did it again, pain gone. So maybe see if you've got some of that going on. But then beyond that, yeah, like also like everybody, our fascia is different from side to side. One cadaver in chiro school had 2 sciatic nerves on one side. Like, just like, we're not like perfect anatomy charts. So it could be just the luck of the draw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are our body questions. Let's get this is a good Ryan question from Hustle to Muscle. I'm taking 200 milligrams TRT and my test levels are 1500. I feel and not that strong. What's going on?
The number one thing I would look at is SHBG. SHBG has a much more profound effect on your free testosterone than is really understood. So that's the first thing I would look at. If you have like a 50 SHBG even, then 200 won't do much for you. You're gonna need more like 300.
Are you saying take some Primabol and an Anavar?
I mean, this is the Tren show, right?
Tren does a really lower SHBG though.
It has no effect on it whatsoever. It's just perfect.
Have they ever figured out what the SHBG receptor does on a muscle cell yet? Or do we have any idea what that does yet?
Complex, the androgen complex, you mean?
Yeah.
There's one study that shows that there is an SHBG receptor on complex on muscle cells, but I've only found it in one study.
There's 3 of them, I think, and it's a recent thing, and like the implications are sort of up in the air. I don't know.
I mean, in the field, like when we have done things to increase people's SHBG, we do see more muscle mass. So the evidence kind of points to it does have an effect.
Well, is the SHBG like, can the complex actually cause gene transcription, or is it just non-genomic signaling on the?
It's just the non-genomic signal. So yeah, it phosphorylates the co-activators to actually take the androgen, the testosterone-bound androgen receptor, or the androgen-bound androgen receptor, translocate it to the nucleus, open the chromatid, bind into the DNA, and have the hormone cascade effect. And SHBG like makes that process more efficacious by phosphorylating the coactivators or the chaperone proteins.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's I think right now the evidence is probably a little too thin to make a judgment on whether it grows muscle or doesn't. But it's an interesting thing mechanistically for sure.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, SHBG is a defense mechanism. So if you take a step back, your SHBG goes down, it reduces the genomic signaling for the genomic effect. You know, the non-genomic effect. If you have lower SHBG, reduces the genomic effect. So there's no transcription, right? So you're actually reducing the efficacy of the testosterone, and it's a defense against high androgens. So it's kind of like it works as a kind of a nuanced defense mechanism against elevated androgens.
Yeah, I think evolutionarily SHBG is primarily like a slow release to get rid of the pulsatile situation with the testicles. So it's also a way of balancing your androgen to estrogen ratio, specifically because testosterone and DHT bind more tightly to SHBG, whereas estradiol doesn't. So it's your body's way of potentially regulating some of that balance, but also, you know, having a slower release, kind of like a longer ester or something.
Yeah.
So that it's
people with higher SHBG don't have. It's like a buffer. They don't have adverse effects from androgens that people with lower SHBG do. Right? Like you're not as sensitive to them. It's sensitive. Just like you're saying, it just kind of acts like a buffer to those pulsatiles or to larger injections. You know, in our case. So.
All right. Mike requested that we get to this one. This is from Jacob. Where do you typically like ApoB at/under for bodybuilders with moderate usage? Also, is there such a thing as too low of an ApoB?
50 and no.
You can use my calculator. A shameless plug. It's free. I make no money on it. It's a free resource. You can just plug all your stuff in, and it's on my website. So,
Mike, I don't know what you think, but my lipidologist told me anything over 60, especially with what we're doing, is rolling the dice.
I'd say as low as 40 for some people, and even 20 for people that are older and have been using androgens for a long time.
Just go as low as possible. You want it as low as possible.
Yeah, that's the way that I see it. It's a risk factor. I think. Well, the way that medicine thinks about us isn't quite correct, because they put diabetes and smoking into a higher risk category, so therefore your ApoB has to be lower because you build up more plaque from essentially the inflammation. But medicine hasn't really caught up to the fact that an androgen user needs to be in a different risk category than the average person. So your LDL, below 100 for your age group, if you're younger, is probably not sufficient to when we see androgen users, we typically see, at least in the few studies that have looked at plaque buildup, anywhere from 3 to 13 years of extra plaque age, which means like a 40-year-old guy that has been using androgens for 10 years may be closer to a 53-year-old guy, right? So, and a 53-year-old guy may be closer to a 60-year-old guy, which gets you pretty close to cardiovascular disease. So you want to slow that down, and you want to put yourself in a higher risk category so you don't build as much plaque. So having your ApoB lower and your LDL-C lower is really, really important, because over time you're going to build more plaque than the average guy. So it's really, really important that we keep this stuff low. That's why I built that calculator, is because that is the thing that is killing the most bodybuilders every single year. It's always cardiovascular disease, and it needs to be talked about more. And if you can just manage that, you can get rid of like close to 50% of the risk of anabolic steroids.
What are some of the management strategies?
Yeah.
You take a statin, or you take Repatha, or you run.
You run a lot. Yeah, you can take ezetimibe. Is basically, this is the way I see it. Unless you're a vegan person on anabolics, you probably need to be on ezetimibe. 99% chance. So you get your anabolics and you get your ezetimibe at the same time, and you just take them together. Forget about even testing it. I don't even care. Just be on ezetimibe first and foremost. Then if you need additional LDL-C reduction or ApoB reduction, then you can look at, pitavastatin or Repatha if you can get it prescribed by your doctor, or bempedoic acid if a statin gives you side effects. But there's so many tools now to reduce and they just came out with the oral PCSK9 inhibitors too. So those will be a thing that we can start using. It was just FDA approved, and those are almost as effective as statins too. So we've got a huge arsenal of drugs that can bring this stuff down that are very, very, very minimal on the side effects. And me and Paul have talked about this. Guys are willing to take Chinese research chemicals, but are not interested in taking drugs that have, basically 30 years to 40 years of clinical safety data in millions and millions of people. So, it's kind of backwards. We need to kind of reframe our understanding here and start using these medications that lower our LDL and really prioritize that, because you don't want to die when you're 60, if you continue to do this stuff,
or die at 40. That's what we're running into.
A lot. Yeah.
The labs I did this week, his ApoB was 131. And I was like, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen dudes over 200.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a doctor will look at 131 and be like, dude, you're cool. Like 9 times out of 10. Like it's insane. Like, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about that. You're young. You'll be okay.
I just look 25. At it as like buying insurance. It's like wearing a helmet when you're riding a motorcycle. Like there's almost no downside to it, really.
Well, I've never taken anything like that, and I just came back with the highest ApoB readings that I've ever came back with at 113, and my doctor didn't really react much to it. He's just like, eh. But he did give me a prescription for Suvastatin, something like that.
Suvastatin, yeah.
And
how many milligrams?
And ezetimibe.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah,
perfect.
That's good.
I mean, if you can get your hands on a PCSK9 inhibitor, man, they are fucking amazing.
Yeah, I'll look into that too.
Especially like just doing an injection every 3 weeks. You don't have to take another pill. You just go into the doctor's office, you get an injection, you're good to go. It's going to lower your LDL cholesterol for 3 weeks. And, it's just easy. It's really, really easy. And they're also less too. Right. So not that statins are like high side effects necessarily. It's very rare that people get myalgia with these things, especially if you're taking CoQ10.
Well,
ubiquinol.
If you stick with a hydrophilic statin, it's safer anyway, right? I mean, versus the lipophilic.
There's a lot of
yeah. And I usually recommend for anybody that's listening, always, if you can get pitavastatin, it's a little more expensive and it's a pain to get your doctor to prescribe it. It's not quite as strong as rosuvastatin. So if you need something to really hammer your LDL cholesterol down and it's real high, it might not be the correct tool. But for the vast majority of people, ezetimibe and pitavastatin are sufficient. And pitavastatin has an advantage where it doesn't make you insulin resistant. Every single other statin does that to some degree. Pitavastatin either seems to improve your insulin sensitivity or not affect it at all in most of the studies. So it's preferable, at least for us, when we're trying to get every little bit of insulin sensitivity, as a bodybuilder, it's a better drug to be on, generally speaking. But at the end of the day, something is better than nothing statin wise if you need it. So don't not take a statin because you can't. Yeah. I
think that's what it gave was because I asked for a rosuvastatin and he goes, no, I liked using this one better. And he gave me.
You're Dr. Smart. Yeah. Most of them, no context at all. They don't understand this stuff at all. They just
he knows. I tell him everything, so he knows it's like it's not a permanent intervention for me. That that I'm post cycle, post show, and that these numbers will probably be in range soon enough.
This lipidologist I saw is pretty sharp. I had the genetic testing done a couple of years ago where I have genetic dyslipidemia, so I try to be aggressive with managing it.
Yeah, so there's 2 things you've got to really keep an eye on, and everyone should have these tested that are doing bodybuilding, is the ApoE genes specifically. So like if you're positive for ApoE4, your risk of cardiovascular disease goes up drastically. Also like dementia and other stuff. But you want to make sure that, you're not, you sequence your genome and you don't have that, because if you have that, your LDL needs to basically be non-existent. And your ApoB needs to be non-existent. The other thing you want to check is LPA, which my calculator does have LPA on it. And every bodybuilder should have an LPA test, natural or on TRT, because TRT actually lowers your LPA a little bit. So it reads artificially low. So the more anabolics you're on, the more it can obscure the LPA number. And LPA is a separate genetic risk factor that you can't actually lower with drugs yet. So you want to be really careful that you test that, and especially test it off a large amount of anabolics so that you can get a good reading of what it is. And if that is elevated, you need to bring your LDL cholesterol and your ApoB even lower than you otherwise would. And my calculator will automatically put a correction factor in if you have if you have a high LPA too. So just keep that in mind. Everyone should have an LPA test at some point as well.
Then with the ApoE, isn't it if they have the forced genetic allele, they need to like double their fish oil, right? Because their body doesn't use it as effectively. Isn't that
more
accurate?
fish oil, more statin, more Repatha, just more everything basically. More anti-inflammatories, vitamin C, melatonin, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Do you have them run an advanced lipid profile every time, or just the one to get the LPA and then just add ApoB?
I usually don't even check if unless they're like, sometimes it can be discordant, but if I don't see it discordant, like the ApoB to LDLC, if it's not discordant, we can just save money and check the LDLC. But if it is discordant, then we check the ApoB every time, because you might need that extra bit of data there. But I don't necessarily think, like, it's just nice to save $20 every time. It's not a huge, if someone's got money, I'll check it. But if it's not discordant and it's kind of in the same place, we can just use the LDL and it's just easier. So you don't need to check it every time necessarily, but there's some nuance there with testing. And the LPA is just, you check it once. You may have to check it multiple times. Yeah, once in your life. Basically. Yeah.
I have to give Molecular some credit. He sort of changed my way of thinking. Like, I always, my mind always went to more natural support for the risk, mitigating the risk for taking AAS, and I was never a big fan of doing anything prophylactically. But learning what I've learned from Molecular, I've definitely shifted my thinking around that.
Yeah, red yeast rice particularly is a statin.
It is a statin, yeah.
It sucks. It's a bad statin. so
all the side effects, none of the benefits.
Yeah, it's not very effective. I mean, they changed it and made it better. It's so anyone taking red yeast rice, you're taking a statin already. Just take the real thing and actually get a good LDLC reduction, please.
Red yeast rice in the garbage can.
Yeah.
I gotta sign off, everybody. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
See you, Marv.
Thanks for the info, Marv. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank
awesome.
you.
I think we got time for maybe one or two more. The calculator, I will put it. Somebody's asking where the calculator is at.
I'll link it up for you in the chat, Paul.
Okay, perfect.
I got to hop off too, guys. I got company coming today, so
see you, Mike.
Later, man.
What do we got left here?
All right, let's get one more. Oh, and Tina asked earlier what Molecular's YouTube is. Is it just Molecular?
Yeah, it's just Molecular. Yeah. It's a very common name. I realized I probably shouldn't have named myself Molecular afterwards, but
I think it's very catchy.
Yeah.
I mean, it works.
All right. Gomek wants to know if we can talk about the rebound phase after a cut and before a cruise. How would this work for the compounds you're running? Pull everything out and go to cruise, or keep some stuff and drop others?
Well, I can tell you what I do. I do not, I think, and this is just my opinion, and you guys are free to disagree with me, but I think the biggest mistake guys make coming out of a contest prep or a cut is just to drop and go straight to TRT. You have this huge hormonal crash. Most of the time, guys end up being estrogen dominant, and they end up getting super hungry and end up binge eating. I don't do the typical post-show shit that most guys do. I will drop the toxic compounds. I'll drop the orals. I'll pull out the Tren. I'll taper off the fat burners. But usually, I just keep some guys on GH, some test, maybe a little bit of Primo for like that 6 to 8 week block post-show, and taper off the fat burners. I think I mentioned that before, and I'll push the food back up close to off season, whatever we start the prep at, or maybe a little bit more than that, off season numbers basically. And guys seem to grow and stay lean on that, and they don't have that huge crash. I think people end up fucking themselves post-show. A lot of times guys come off of everything and then they just end up binge eating, and they end up being a fat piece of shit after 6-8 weeks, and basically have ruined their entire off season. That's just what I've seen.
Yeah, my 2 cents is I think it does. I agree with you. Not 75% of the time, that's probably the scenario, especially pulling out the toxic stuff that we don't need, the trends, the orals, the things that are going to beat us up, especially when food gets increased during the rebound. But there are some scenarios I take into consideration. The people in how long we've been on. Is this our 3rd show we've just cranked through, and we can just get away with like a high level of, moderate level of testosterone and kind of go down there, not right down to TRT. But I'm usually still aiming for, after the rebound, there is an off season. And then we that might be one of the few times when you zoom out and look at the big scenario of when can I get some breaks off of gear. That might be one of the most effective ones after the rebound. But it has to be a person to person. We're checking blood work. Sometimes I don't have a choice. It's not up to us. We got to make sure that
it's
indicators, we have to go with that. But if we can get away with, test a little bit of a primo or whatever is your secondary that works for you, and some growth hormone, and stay disciplined, because even if you're on gear and you're not disciplined with your food, you're going to be a fat shit anyways, during a rebound. So those things come from client to client, person to person. But yeah, I'd agree with you, Paul. 75% of the time, that's probably what's always going to happen.
Yeah, I'll do, sometimes, like if I have somebody who's just a fat loss client and they're coming off and they're just body's exhausted, and we're trying to just kind of reverse diet a little bit and build their metabolism back up, I will come back down to TRT in that situation. But it just really depends on the person. But I'd say most of the time post-show, your body is just primed to grow. Gastric emptying is going to be high. Your insulin sensitivity is going to be high. Your ability to, like, as soon as you throw some carbs in, training just goes crazy. Anybody knows?
Once your liver recovers from all of the orals,
Yep.
Can I ask you this though? Like, what about the client that's, let's say that cut cycle, they get to the end of a show or a cut, and they're only using, let's say, 500 test, 200 primo. Are we keeping that in completely right there during the rebound, making zero changes, or
probably,
you know what I mean?
Just leave it the same and just push the food up.
Yeah.
Let the hormones grow the muscles for you.
Or lower the test a little bit. I don't know. I mean, because I do, I hear there's different philosophies with different coaches, but I hear some guys using less when people are cutting. I feel like that's the time you need to throw the kitchen sink at things. Like, I feel like in the off season, when you're in a caloric surplus, you don't need that much.
Preach. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I never understood that. Like I've grown. Had some incredible progress on like 500 tests and 300 primo or mass in my off seasons.
Yeah, I think the last thing you'd want to do is throttle down right into the rebound too. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So you say,
so another thing you have to keep in mind post show is, like, if you have suppressed your estrogen to a high degree with a suicide inhibitor and you bring down the test immediately, you might just crash your estradiol even further.
Ask me how I know that one.
Excellent point.
So there needs to be a sensitive E2, like around the show time, so that when it's time to, reverse or whatever it is, you've got that coming in ready to go. And it's like, okay, this is where we're at. Let's adjust the test based on that. Right.
Very true.
All right. We want to get one more and then I'll roll.
All right, well, let's get this one because he's a member. This is from Chad Wallace. Dave, how in the world are you able to pin your rear delt?
Yoga.
I literally put my elbow on the table, so I put some pressure on it, and I just turn with the other hand, and I can squeeze it around.
You coming from underneath, like this way, coming from behind, or you going over the top?
Let me see. I'm going over the top. Yeah.
Over the top.
That's pretty impressive.
But I got to get my elbow on the table. So
Dave's got shoulders twice as big as most of us.
My shoulder mobility is so shitty. There is no fucking way in hell I'd be able to do that.
You're not really shoulder mobility. You're just muscling your shit out of the way. You're actually hurting yourself.
Yeah.
For a glute injection, I actually put it on the sink, like on the sink countertop, and then I just twist my body and hold it like off the edge of the sink, and then back my glute into the syringe. Like, that's how I do my glute.
I just lay down.
I do it standing up. It's no big deal.
I can't. I can't twist around and do it.
He's back right into it.
I have to use the sink.
Like
That's
that.
crazy.
You'll get
All right.
creative and you're gonna find spots.
I'm gonna wrap this up, folks. We appreciate
All right.
each and every one of you.
You
Thank you
guys.
so much. We will see you on the next